Business aviation is great and the future is great, but the fact is right now we are a bit of a challenged industry at this time. I think you're all aware of this. If you mentor business aviation, I think you might put it at approximately 50 years old. And maybe we're at a bit of an adolescence at this point, kind of a transition time, because as wonderful as an industry it is, we do face some very serious challenges these days. You know, we're a bit of an industry. I think there's some diminished need out there right now, and this all translates ultimately to erosion in aircraft values, which gets us all concerned. So I'd like to say that the forecast ultimately in the short term would be more rosy than it is, but certainly in the long term, we think business aviation is a wonderful industry and it's going to be healthy long term. So in a moment, I'm just going to turn it over to Roland Vincent. If you don't know Rolly, he's got a wonderful consultancy based out of Dallas, Texas. We have a partnership in JETNET IQ, where our company based in Utica, New York, and our 75 staff researchers collect the data. We're out there surveying 500 operators every quarter. And Roland and his team actually dissect the information, and from that come up with the results that we see, and ultimately a forecast going out 10 years. And we'll be talking about that today. So without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to Roland Vincent, and we'll give you our state of the market review. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
You survived last night. The news already hitting the press, whether it's AIN, Wichita Eagle, or BARD, or any of the main publications in the industry. I mean, this is a great venue to come together and to celebrate both investments that the industry is making, and that's what's making this recovery very different from prior recoveries. Investment. I think that's a story we have to remember. Whether you're an OEM, whether you're manufacturing avionics, whether you're developing new engines, whether you're building the next 4G or 5G system for aircraft, investment is underway. And we're in this doldrum period from a demand point of view, end user, but let's not forget where we've come from. So JETNET IQ, what is JETNET IQ? 6 years ago already, this young man and I got together at one of these main, I think it was a NARA event or something, I can't remember, but we talked around some ideas, and the idea became JETNET IQ. What is IQ? Here's our elevator speech. I'm not even going to read it to you, but you can see it up there. But the I and the Q, obviously intelligence, right? Market intelligence, but IQ is also independent and quarterly. So when we present our forecast, and there are other forecasts being presented here at this show, and that's fine, our forecasts have proven to be very, very accurate. In fact, two of the largest OEMs on the floor independently, I wasn't even in the room, said that our forecasts are the most accurate in the industry and have been for several years. So let's ask ourselves why that is. Part of it is we're independent. If markets are going up, everyone's excited and they're on podiums and shaking hands. When markets are going down or when they're in doldrums, we'll call it like we see it. We'll call it like the data is. And that's what we're seeing right now. Let's not forget where we've come from. This industry is very young. 1962, I was just a little kid at the time. My mother was wondering, what the hell am I going to do with this little thing? But anyway, it was the beginning of our industry, okay? And you see the ramp that we've been on. This is the fleet developments. The colors just show the categories. We've now got a whole bunch of categories of airplanes. But look at the slope here. This is the climb that this industry's been on. This is the amount of aircraft that are sitting, business jets that are sitting around somewhere in the world ready to fly right now. Over 20,000, almost 21,000 aircraft. Now, the growth rate has been pretty substantial, and some of these airplanes right now are kind of idle. Okay, we're in a bit of an oversupply, but this ramp up that we've seen has been significant. The blue colors, that's the big cabin airplanes where all the money is. Around 3/4 of the money in this industry is in big cabin. Okay, and here's this what we call the way we've changed over time. If you look at how we've grown as an industry, that pie, the fleet, if you like, has been getting bigger, and it's been getting bluer. You see that blue color again? We're using the same sort of legend here. Blue is big cabin, and you see the growth of big cabin airplanes. It's been the big story of this industry now for quite a few years, and it will continue. Now, here's something we track. As an analyst, you can look at a whole bunch of things, but really what matters are these 20 countries with 93% of the aircraft based there, okay? This is where we look for all of the indicators that are really important to the industry. And the green bars just show you how large that country is in terms of the fleet that's currently based there. We use based fleet in this case, not registration. And that's the US. Almost 13,000 business jets here today, right now. And there are other countries, Mexico being number 2, but a very distant number 2. Almost 1,000 airplanes. But if you look at growth right now, it's in the US, believe it or not, and it's in Mexico. That's where we're seeing fairly robust demand for business aviation. A lot of other countries, and you see that line going across here? That's GDP growth, that's economic growth expected this year from the latest issue of The Economist. And you see anything in the blue zone here, what we're calling the blue zone, way off, that's 3% GDP growth or higher, and there's only 4% of the fleet sits in those countries, 4% of the fleet. So when we're looking for, nice, robust, healthy growth, we're going to have to see it happening more in the US, certainly Europe. A lot of the European countries, if you see, are here. They're at 1.5% GDP growth, which is pretty, it's okay. It's not fast growing or anything. And it's going to take a little bit more lift for that fleet to grow some more. So anyway, the bottom line is, with only 4% of the fleet sitting in high growth economies, it's no wonder we're in the doldrums. Okay, let's talk around where we've been. Very quickly, okay, where we've been. Can you see that slide? Corporate profits is on the horizontal axis. That's U.S. corporate profit. And up and down, and this is the number of cycles, airplane landings and takeoffs in the U.S. And you see how it went kind of sharply north back around 15, 16 years ago? We call this the tech bubble. No profits, growth, but a lot of explosion of airplane activity. Part of it is NetJets. Now here's the good old days, what we call maybe the good old days, when we had growing profits and growing cycles. You see that? Activity was up. This is a sort of a normal quote-unquote industry that you might expect, okay? And then what happened? Oh yeah, the financial crisis in the September of 2008, we all took a bit of a step back, and what happened to flight activity? Way off the charts, see that? And now where we've been growing. You see? Bunch of years here of growth. Profits are way off the charts to the right. We've never seen corporate profitability, if you look along the bottom. We've never seen corporate profitability like this. And look where cycles are, at this new sort of lower level. You see that? And now where are we? Well, what's happened to profits? Profits have turned backwards. So we're seeing, and yet it hasn't happened yet, we're watching this, we're expecting cycles maybe to come down a little bit. Because that's what seemingly happens when the profits come back. You see that? That's just a quick walk through history, okay? Overcapacity, oversupply. Paul mentioned this. This is probably the most important chart I'm going to share with you. This is the U.S. where 60% of the fleet sits, and we're going to talk about the U.S. here. The green bar, this is GDP in the United States, okay? GDP, economic activity. You see the step back in 2009, this is by year. See that little step back right there? First time we've seen in the U.S. the economy actually slowed. You see that? In most of our lifetimes. And you see the reaction, that line going down, that's the number of aircraft takeoffs and landings, okay? See the reaction to the recession? See that line coming down? And where we are today? The activity levels now are where they were in 2003 in the U.S. 2003. The growth of the fleet in the U.S. has been 50% since 2003. So we have 50% more airplanes, and we have the same flight activity. If I'm selling fuel, I'm probably not very happy to hear that. But it will bounce back. Right now we are in oversupply. This is causing prices across the industry, whether you're selling airplanes new, pre-owned, whether you're selling fuel, charter, whatever, you're probably running into a lot of capacity issues, a lot of overcapacity, a lot of oversupply. Transactions, those blue little bars you see at the bottom, that's a number of pre-owned transactions, retail transactions. And we track this at JETNET very, very carefully, and that those squiggly lines you see going across, that's just showing rates of change, and it goes back in time. Right now we're pretty healthy. It's about 2,100 pre-owned transactions are occurring on an annual basis. Compare that to maybe 700 new deliveries. Pre-owned is around 3 times the size of the market in terms of activity, pre-owned sales. Prices, of course, are quite a bit less, but if you roll it all together, the pre-owned market is almost as big as the new market, and no one talks about it. We do. And this is important because this shows us rates of change, and right now we're kind of in a bit of a doldrum, and you can see where things are. Pricing is, of course, another issue. Here's activity in terms of inventory, how much stuff is for sale. The blue lines and bars, that's the number of jets, and the green is turboprops. The turboprop segment is actually fairly strong. Relatively speaking, only about 8.5% for sale of the fleet, and price has been holding very well. And I'll say a little plug for my friends at Pilatus. If you don't have a Pilatus PC-12, you probably should, because that's the airplane that's holding its value very well right now. Book-to-bill at the OEMs, this has been moving around. Book-to-bill means the number of orders coming in versus the number of deliveries going out. And we don't always get reports on a units basis or a dollars basis, so this is a bit of a blended chart. But you can see some of the activity. These were the dark days, in 09 when we had a lot of cancellations. The industry really took it hard there, but we've been on a pretty good recovery mode. Right now, you see that line going across the page, that's a 1.0 book-to-bill. What does that mean? That's kind of where you want to be as a manufacturer, taking the same number of orders as you're delivering, kind of staying in balance so you know what's going on. Right now, you see Dassault and Bombardier in those cases, the latest reports, just slightly under on the book-to-bill. Okay, we're going to switch gears now and talk around our survey. We have a survey that goes, we've now almost conducted, I think it's almost 12,000 responses now to these surveys. 12,000 responses from 129 countries. We have several of our customers in the room who appreciate these insights that come from these surveys. Now the interesting thing, these surveys only go on an invitation basis to owners and operators of fixed-wing turbine airplanes. So you can't just find the survey online, you've got to be invited to it. And if you're invited to it, you can only participate if that little blue box there, we give you a unique password. So we've given 12,000 unique passwords out. So anybody who responds, we know exactly who they are, what they're flying, because we have that link to our databases. So we have to bother them with a lot of demographic questions. But it does give us a lot of insights into who they are and what they're doing. Here's our storyboard, if you like, already. The number of respondents is around 500 every quarter, and we get around 50 countries reporting every 90 days. And right now, I think we're in the field right now with our Q4 survey, 150 responses already. So we're almost a third of the way, pretty close to a third of the way already on our Q4 survey. So we have insights in the field, in the market at the same time. Our respondent base comes from all around, but you see some of the numbers here in terms of what their role was in terms of the last airplane purchase. So 25% actually wrote the check, or so they say to us. Another, 40% were involved in the purchase decision. Here is a mood tracker, let's call it a mood tracker. A lot of people do surveys. We're in the field quite often, and we're measuring the mood of the market. Okay, green is good, red is not good. Gray is, I don't know, it's somewhere in between. The question really is, where is business aviation in the current business cycle? Are we going up? And if they think that, they're going to score it in green here. And if we're going down, it's red. If we're flat, or they don't know, it's gray. And look what's going on here. And you see it here by region. North America and Europe actually looking reasonably strong compared to the other markets. You see that around 44% optimism, if you want to call it that. Now we use this as a metric, and a lot of ratios are driven off of this, and how many optimists versus pessimists, etc. But the thing that really is important is when you look at it over time. Here's looking at it by size category, what they're flying. Large jet operators, just to give you a little frame of reference here, this was a 60% positive group a couple of quarters ago, and they're now at 32%. So things are changing. So we're not a doom and gloom analyst group or anything, but we're watching this very carefully, okay? Because this is changing. And here's how it's changing. This is the mood of the market, and this is what we call a net optimism. What does that mean? Well, the optimists are on one side of the room. Let's say this room, you're the optimists and you're the pessimists. Right now, that ratio, there's 18% more optimists than pessimists right now in the market, okay? So just slightly better on this side of the room than on this side of the room. But you can see where we've been. We were at 40% higher. It's just, this thing's moving, and it's moving quite quickly. This is a rolling average of 4 quarters. If I showed you the quarterly numbers, that would be even more dramatic. We've taken, in Q1 this year, there was a dramatic change in the market. Q1 this year. We monitored it, we reported it to our customers, and we've suggested to them a few actions from that. Okay, one of the things that we hear a lot around, and I think I'll give JETNET a little plug here, it's a brand new product called Values that they're just launching right now, and it's all around this topic of residual values. And here's the question, if you own an airplane, the last couple of years, you've probably seen a diminution in value. Right? Residual values have been plummeting, actually. And this is the statement. Concerns over residuals, have they delayed? Have they delayed a purchase decision? This is, right to the owner-operator community. And the answer is, well, yeah, almost half are saying, yeah, it's delaying my purchase decision. This is significant. Okay. Brexit. Any Europeans in the group, or anyone who likes Europe? I'm one. There we are. There's a European. And someone living in Great Britain as well. There you go. The British decision, if you like, the referendum to leave Europe, has sent a lot of shock waves. And one of the things, look at this, the current political uncertainty, here's a statement, will have little effect. Well, 75% of our worldwide community think that it's going to have actually little effect. But let's look at it the other way, 25% are saying, wait a minute, Brexit is a big deal. Now, there's something going to happen next Tuesday in the United States. I'm trying to remember what it is. I can't remember. Oh, yeah, the presidential election. Oh, yeah, right. I've already voted. If you haven't already voted, it's a good idea. This is what's going on. Is the uncertainty related to the U.S. presidential election? How is this affecting business aviation? And little or no effect, about 59%. Again, worldwide numbers. If I showed you the U.S. numbers, they're actually higher. So why do I show you this? This is kind of the mood. These kinds of things are affecting people's decisions, whether they're running a business, running a flight department, running a fractional program, whatever it is. This is what's on the mind of the people in the back of the airplane. Inhibitors. What's stopping people from buying? We've been tracking this now for almost 6 years. What is going on in the market? And the first thing that people tell us, say, hey, in a perfect world, if you wanted to buy an airplane, what's stopping you from buying an airplane? Give us the top 3 things. And the first thing they've been telling us every single quarter is they have enough aircraft in their hangar. You see the oversupply issue? The other things that are coming up, though, is that, look at this, purchase price or trade-up cost. This has now moved into the number 2 position. What that is let's say I owned a G450. I'd be a very happy person if I did. But if I owned a G450 and I wanted to go to Gulfstream and say, hey, I want a G650ER, that gap between those 2 prices or those values has grown. And I can say the same for Challenger or Lear or whatever. Every OEM is facing this. The gap between the pre-owned and the new is growing, and it's making that step up really difficult. Okay? What are they going to buy in the next 12 months? This is only high probability buying. So if we went around that community of owners and operators, hey, what are you going to buy? Here's what we're looking at buying right now. The medium jet category seems to be the G280s, the Challenger 350s, the Legacy 500 class. That seems to be where the mood of the market is leaning right now. Here's what they're flying, small, medium, and large aircraft, and here's what they're buying. So we're still seeing compression at the bottom of the market. Purchase probabilities, again, by percentages. How likely are you to buy? Around 8% or so are saying they're going to buy in the next 12 months. So that's a decent level of activity. It's up a little bit, actually, this quarter. Here's something. What's driving residual values downwards? We asked a lot of detail here. A lot of detail. This is a big concern in the industry. Residuals. Some of it is overproduction. You can see some of the numbers here. Some of it is just simply too much aircraft sitting in the aftermarket. You can see all of the rationale here. But some of the key points to point out are this one. This is the economic factor. Economic and business slowdown is the big one. You can see some of the others. Here's our forecast. We're at 7,400 aircraft, business jets next 10 years. That's including this year. So 2016, we're going to see around 660 deliveries this year. That's our latest forecast. We've been, I'm sorry, I'll sound like I'm plugging it here, 99.5 accurate the last 2 years. And we don't build any components for these airplanes. We're just analysts. But we are fairly good at what we do in terms of understanding what the customers are looking at. Here's we think the market is actually going to be down a little bit on units over the next 3 years, and the recovery will really begin in 2018. It's going to be driven by product development coming to stream, the G600s, the G500s, these kinds of airplanes. 2018 looks like a very good year for the industry, and the orders are coming in now, okay? So we're pretty confident about that. But we do see a very sluggish situation, both in terms of values and in terms of units over the next 3 years. But when you add it all up, this is about 7,400 units. Now, there's a new aircraft, the Cirrus SF-50 just certified. This is not included in this analysis, but we do have also analysis of that. If you want to talk about that, we can do that afterwards. Units and value, you see on the left, blue is big cabin, you see on the units, and then on the value on the right. This is the amount of money that's going to be transacted for new aircraft over the next 10 years. And like I said, we're, two of the big OEMs said we're the most accurate at this stuff, so that's kind of nice to hear. Here's our forecast of where that money is going to go, which OEMs are going to be the winners, if you like, or what share are they going to capture. There's some significant changes if you look at this going forward. Gulfstream, we believe, is positioned to take around a third of all the revenue coming into the door. Probably a little bit more because they don't discount their airplanes. That's a joke, guys. Okay, there we go. And then Cessna, about 20% of the units going forward. And Embraer, this is, we're a bit bold on Embraer. We think Embraer may take a fifth of the units going forward over 10 years. That's a fairly bold prediction, but we're pretty confident about their product line. I think that's the last, yeah, that's it. What I'll do is I'm going to sit down here. We're going to take your questions. I hope that was useful.